the building is a total loss. The things that were inside the building, two of them are on display here, the Lizard Green 3RS and the 918. You can see that they're absolutely untouched, as many of the cars that were in the building were untouched. And luckily, what we consider the three crown jewels are going to be completely fine. We have some things that are very cosmetic, and then we have some things that are going to be a challenge. And we still have 4 cars that we're waiting to get out of the building, and we'll see what we see when we have those out. But I'll let you.
No, first of all, thank you all, and a lot of you in this room have communicated with us as a family. Let me say now, first of all, we lost a building, we lost a few things. But I think all of us know that the most important things in life aren't things. Your health, your family, your friends. And we count our blessings. We pray for those who lost a loved one. We pray for those who have been injured. But as Rory said, we're so blessed, and we will rebuild. Those ones that are damaged, I know a guy who's pretty good at fixing them. By the way, I don't get a family discount, nor should I. My friend Temple Sloan, who many of you know, called me the next day and he said, "Bob, I need to give you, I'm going to cheer you up." Because I said, "Well, I'm ready." And he said, "Cam's 4-year backlog, now is a 6-year backlog." But thank you all for being here this morning. We're particularly honored to have some very special guests, including Brian Redman. And so
we need to thank some people that
yes.
on very short notice helped us, supported us, and allowed us to do that. And first, we want to recognize Advance Auto. I would like to ask our friend Helmut Zodel to come up for a second. Come on, please. You two can speak better, but I think most of you probably realize there was a local company called CarQuest that Advance Auto and them merged. Now Advance Auto's our only Fortune 500 company, headquartered in Raleigh. Public.
Yeah.
So, you want to talk a little bit about Advance Auto?
Sure, thanks Rory, and thanks for having me. And first of all, I want to thank Porsche Southpoint and the Porsche family for having us. And without you guys, this would not be possible. And I want to thank the Ingram family, Bob, Rory, Jeannie, everybody to making this possible. And we are all with you during good times and during bad times. What I want to say just very briefly is, so Advance Auto Parts, we are a 70,000 people company. We're headquartered here in Raleigh. We're very happy to support this event. And I have to say, those of you that know us, we are typically not in the Porsche business, I would say. But I can tell you, with one of our subsidiaries in a World Pack, you are able now to get every Porsche part in every Advance store, because we just enabled what we call cross-banner sourcing. So if you have a need for a Porsche part, I was telling Klaus, maybe it's a little bit cheaper than buying than the Porsche, but we are here to help you and here to serve you, and we are glad to have again some more special guests. Brian and Klaus is here, and Bob said it's about the car and it's about the people, and I believe it's also about the memories. And I know today is going to be another day where some great memories are going to be made and going to be shared. So thank you for having us.
Before you leave, talk about memories. I've been to Austria 3 times with Helmut. He keeps some cars over there. My father joined me once over there, and that's his beautiful ice cream metallic GT2 RS out there.
Right here at the corner is Helmut's ice cream metallic GT2 RS. And I don't say friends never have to flatter each other. In my opinion, it's the sharpest GT2 RS I've seen. And we've had some wonderful times touring the Grossglockner Pass, Klaus, in some great cars. And I'm a wannabe Austrian.
Thank you.
So this is very relevant. I'm going to ask Will Cheek from Haggerty to come up. Haggerty has sponsored this event as well. So Haggerty's obviously our carrier. We just renewed. You may laugh at that. Any other carrier
would not have
renewed us. So, and we renewed at the same nominal increase that any of you that have Haggerty insurance renewed at. And most of you all are familiar with our collection in the sense that we use it a lot. We take it to a lot of shows. We drive it weekly. I think I was talking to Klaus about collectibles. I like wine, but at some point it's salad vinegar, and if you drink the 1952 Chateau last night, what it tastes like. But cars are very sensual. You get to use them, touch them. They're not art. They're not Picasso's. They're subjective. You can't take that to your friend's barbecue. But we were able to use our cars and enjoy our cars because of the insurance that, I use that word semantically, that Haggerty gave us, that the confidence that we could do that. And we're going to be able to do that again because of Haggerty. So, Will, do you want to?
I'd like to just add before Will comments, the day of the explosion, within the first hour, Will was there. And he stayed for 2 days, shoveling, sweeping, cleaning up. And from that day to today, Haggerty has never left our side. And there's a reason they're the #1 company in this segment. And it's not because of the brand, it's because of the service and the commitment to their client base. So, Will, thank you. Thank you.
The last thing I want to say is the word insurance, because I think we're trying to get as far away from that term as we can as a brand. Obviously, it's what we do, and it's what allows everybody to get out and enjoy the cars. It's how the brand got started, and it's been fun to be a part of. I can kind of remember back to the first time that I met Bob Ingram 5 or 6 years ago down in South Carolina at a car show. I just joined Haggerty as a company, and I met Jeannie out on the field, and as politely as anybody could say it, she goes, "You really need to meet my husband," and had a chance to meet Bob. And later that evening, I stayed on the show field helping clean up, and I came into this meeting, and Bob introduced me on stage, and just recognized the brand. And I really started to realize what I had come into and what I was participating in, and that something like an insurance company really seems like the last place anybody really wants to go work. But for me, it was a career choice, and Bob's affirmations and support really started to tell me that I'd made a good decision. Here we are 5 or 6 years later, and still love every second of what I do. I love the people I meet, and especially the families, Bob, Cam, Rory, Michael, Jeannie, Helmut, Klaus, Brian. It feels like family. And for me, there's no better feeling getting up and doing what's some would say is work, but enjoying it and loving every second of it, and having the support behind me as a company. It's rare. If I had been going through a similar situation and not had the support behind me of an entire company built to serve our clients the way that they did, it would not have happened. And there was never a question from the start to where we are today, and as we continue to rebuild the People's Porsche collection, that their support. And Jeannie, I know there's a lot of things that we want to make sure we get right for you as well, because as everybody knows, there's a lot of bricks involved, but there's mortar in between every single one of those bricks, and that is Jeannie. And there's a lot of love that went into that. So, everything we're going to do is to get everybody back where they should be, and that's our purpose. But never stop driving. Always enjoy these cars.
Amen.
And how fortunate we are to have the Ingram family here to really support this, and Porsche for being a host, and everybody else involved with Vance Auto. This has been exciting, and the weekend's just getting started, so excited for everybody today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sharp numbers on the jacket. Gerald. So we are here at Porsche Southpoint, and Gerald, this is your shop, and the partnership that we've had the last couple of years has meant a lot to us. You're the first strategic partner that signed with us, and I think we've done some fun stuff. I think this unfortunate situation is going to give us the opportunity to do some different stuff that we wouldn't have been forced to do. And one of the events is that we're going to do tomorrow, and we'll talk about that later. But thank you for all you've done for us. And Dad bought his first not his first Porsche, but his first new Porsche from technically Porsche Southpoint. It was performance Porsche at the time,
Yep.
but yeah, so.
Yep. Yep. I'd just like to say, before we turn it to Gerald, I think many of you know, as with any organization, and Oliver, you can speak to this, Klaus can, the tone starts at the top. And the tone for this whole organization is set by Rick Hendrick. And as Gerald will tell you, he's worked for Mr. Hendrick for 27 years. And that is not uncommon in the Hendrick organization. The loyalty that Rick inspires by his example is legendary. North Carolina is a great place to live. And one of the reasons it's a great place to live is because we have some business leaders in this state, like a Rick Hendrick, like a Jim Goodnight, that have built companies and set a culture where people want to stay because they love what they do and they love the culture of the company they're part of. And Gerald, you and your team carry on that culture, and it just makes me very proud to be your friend and to be a partner with Hendrick Automotive Group. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we start, I think, and I know if everybody realizes, you just, your third consecutive year as a premium dealership of excellence for Porsche. I mean, that's pretty
Unique.
Yeah.
Well, it takes good people, a lot of good people. It takes a good brand, it takes good friends, it takes good leaders, Dean and his team. A lot of great people make it happen, so thanks to all of our team members that are here. We spoke about parts, right? We Advance Auto, comment, and talk, the manufacturer puts them together, those parts. Got insurance, right? And we sell them. So if you want to experience those parts all together, it's quite the experience, right? Most of you are Porsche drivers, so thanks for your business and loyalty, and thanks for everybody coming out today. And I'll keep it simple.
All right, Klaus. So for those of you who don't know the gentleman sitting between my father and I, this is Klaus Selmer, the CEO of Porsche North America.
I've never met anyone that I think embodies the best principles of leadership than Klaus Selmer. He took time out of his incredibly busy schedule to voluntarily come here today. He wanted to be here. And it is a credit to Porsche Southpoint. As Roy said, this is the third year in a row they've been one of the top 25 Porsche dealers in the United States. Credit to the whole team, Dean, your whole team. But Klaus, I just want to thank you for your friendship. It means a lot to me. Thank you.
Well, yes, I am a little bit embarrassed because, normally you don't sit next to somebody praising me so much, but I thank you for that. And I really appreciate it. And, this is the fuel that keeps me going, of course, being aspirational and inspirational for such a wonderful brand. Now, let me just thank all of you to be here today. It's an honor for me and a pleasure to be here. It's not a duty. This is what I was really looking forward to. When I come back here to this wonderful campus that Mr. Hendricks has created, and these wonderful people running our brand here on that campus, and Porsche family that I see right in front of me. It's not that I have to try and motivate myself. There's a lot of motivation intrinsically in me to come here, and I'm always happy to be here. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank everybody standing beside our friends, the Ingram family, when this horrible incident happened. And I said that yesterday, and this sounds a bit funny maybe for you, but when Bob shared the handwritten note from my CEO in Germany, Oliver Blume, wishing him all the best and telling him he heard what had happened, I thought, oh yeah, I'm with the right brand. I'm with a brand where, things like that are not just business matters. Things like that are family business, where you are with each other, supporting each other. And of course, Oliver said, anything that we can do from Germany to rebuild whatever was broken, then we will help. And I think that speaks volumes, but not only about Porsche, also about the Ingram family. Everything that you've done for the brand is just incredible for 20 years. When I first met you, I was very impressed with you as people, but of course also with the treasures that you have, your cars, and I'm more than happy to hear that it wasn't a catastrophe. It was something that, of course, we lost lives and we lost things. And my last thank you before I hand it back is to CJ. So CJ is here. She's from Atlanta, I learned. So CJ was with the police and with the first team taking care of what you need to take care of if something like that happens, and she mitigated everything that could have gone even worse. So thank you for that. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your service.
So with that, let's get started. Brian, if you want to come on up. Well, welcome, Brian. We had a fun night last night, but I think hopefully we can capture half those stories after a little bit of wine we had tonight, today.
I'll just say, and I think you don't need me, and I don't want to take time away from Brian to tell you about what a legendary career Brian's had in motorsports. The term living legend gets thrown around a lot, but it's so appropriate for Brian. One, he's living. And I say that, and we can laugh, but when you think about the fact, and we talked about this last night at dinner, in his original 917 factory team of the 4 factory drivers, he's the only one still alive. And he's been in some serious accidents, and that's understated, and yet he survived. And he's a winner. He's won the Targa Florio, he's won Daytona, Sebring, and again, as Klaus would be the first to tell you, Porsche continues to benefit from that incredible motorsports history and the success. And Brian, you're a great ambassador, but more importantly, you're a great friend. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Bob and Rory and Cam and Jeannie. We had a great night last night. I'm actually not feeling all that great today.
We did enjoy some good wine.
Before I forget, amongst us here somewhere is a great motorsport pioneer from Robert Bosch GmbH, Wolfgang von Hudstedt. Where are you, Wolfie? He's here.
Right there.
So, yes. Wolfie was representing Bosch, mostly in spark plugs and that kind of thing, and ignition systems, really for what, more than 40 years, I think. 44 years. Fantastic. And thank you very much.
So let's get started here, Brian. Thumbing through your book, there's some amazing machinery that you piloted, and it's not all Porsche. We're going to get to the Porsche cars, but early on in the late '60s and early '70s, you were in Formula One. You want to talk about that?
Well, I'd started racing in 1959. I made mop heads, you know, the things you clean the floors with, in Burnley, Lancashire, the industrial north of England. And I had a Morris 1000 Woody, a traveller's car. And I delivered mop heads all over the north of England in it. And I had a supercharger on it, and I drove like a maniac. And so I thought I'd better get off the road and get on the track, and that's what happened. Easter Monday of 1959. And all we did, we had no safety belts, no roll cages, a fire extinguisher was about 5 inches tall, and all you did, you got to the track on the Sunday, one-day meeting, you took your shoe whitener and you painted a number on the doors, and you put electrical tape over the headlights, and that was it. And then you went racing. So I did that, in that type of car for 4 years, and then I got married in September 1962. And I had no money. I went motocross on motorbikes for 2 years, but occasionally I drove other people's cars. And that led to other drives, to a Jaguar lightweight E-Type in 1965, had a great year. beaten once in 14 races by a Ferrari 250 LM at Silverstone in September 1965, then a lower T70 Can-Am car, and then the following year, 1967, a friend of mine said to me, "Do you want to turn professional?" I said, "What does that mean?" He said, "It means I'll pay you 30 quid a week, 30 pounds a week, guaranteed for a year with a car and a mechanic." And I turned into Formula 2, so I was already 30 by this time, and I drove for the first time single-seater. But towards the end of that year in September at Montlhéry, Paris, 1,000 kilometers, it poured with rain, and I was driving a 250 LM Ferrari. Richard Atwood belonged to David Piper, a great private owner who bought the second 917 in 1969. And we did very well. And just after the race, a gentleman came up to me and he said, "Redman, would you care to drive with X at the Kailami 9-hour race in South Africa in November?" And Jackie X and I won the race, a 9-hour race in a John Wyer Gulf GT40 Ford, and that led to a contract with Wyer for 1968. And at the same time, the Cooper Car Company, the Formula 1 team, they were going downhill pretty fast, and they wanted a cheap driver and somebody who knew the track. And so they said, "Do you want to do Formula 1?" And the first race was back at Kailami in January of 1968. And so I get there, and it's got this Maserati V12 engine, and it never ran during practice. It's pumping oil out in every direction. And John Cooper just said to me, Brian, he said, "Please try and do 5 laps. We need the starting money." So I did 5 laps and retired. But the next race, I finished 3rd in the Spanish Grand Prix at Marama. Well, I mean, the only reason I finished 3rd was because everybody broke down. I started last. My teammate, Ludovico Scarfiotti, Italian member of the Fiat family, the most charming guy you could meet. I followed him all through the race, and halfway through were 9th and 10th. And so 3/4 of the way through were 7th and 8th. I thought, huh. So I nipped past him and finished 3rd. Well, on the victory lap with the winner, Graham Hill, in 2nd place was Denny Hume, and I'm on the outside of the column. I'm turning to my left to wave to the crowd like this, and I turned to my right, and Graham Hill turned to his left and saw me really for the first time, and his arm dropped and his jaw dropped, and he said, "Christ almighty, don't tell me you were bloody 3rd." So at the next race, Belgian Grand Prix, Spa-Francorchamps, the fastest, most dangerous track in the world. 8 miles through the foothills of the Ardennes mountain. And about 7 laps into the race, my steering broke, and I had an enormous accident. I rolled over the barriers, but as it rolled over, this arm got caught between the car and the barrier. And I felt it snap, and then it landed right in a corner worker's post, and 3 wheels came off, and then it caught fire. And so, I'm trying to drag my arm out of the fire using my left hand, and a marshal appeared right in front of my face with all the fire extinguisher powder and the smoke from the fire, and he's right in my face. He's smoking, he's got a cigarette. And it all caught fire again. So when they got me on the operating table that night, Professor Ferdinand Orban of the University of Liège Teaching Hospital was the head of surgery. There were no specialists in those days. And so I'm lying there, not looking to them. He looks down, he says, "Mr. Edmund, it may not be possible to save the arm." I smiled. I said, "Thank you, Professor." He said, "Why are you smiling?" I said, "Because I'm here." And on Monday, John Cooper came to me. "What happened, my boy?" I said, "Something broke, John." Yes, well, you'll be all right." And on Thursday that week, Motoring News, a weekly motoring periodic, came up. Redman claimed the steering broke, and the editor got a call from John Cooper saying, "I want a complete retraction, it was driver error." So he said, "Mr. Cooper, I suggest that you look at tomorrow's Autosport," which was a glossy weekly, and there, on about page 5, is a photograph taken head-on by a photographer, Peter Byrne, on his first ever photography assignment at a motor race, just before I hit the barrier, and it showed the right front bottom wishbone broken, on the ground. The chassis broke. Your C-ring was very rough. And the engineers examined, this is good, the race is only 12 hours. Guess what happened in the race? The track got rougher and rougher, all the chassis broke, except one was repaired with some fencing from a post, and they finished second. That was Steve McQueen, wasn't it? And, yeah, Steve. So anyway, there we are. Sorry.
That's okay. And then, so 1970 brought some better results for you, starting with Joe Seifert as your teammate, and then Tardy Floria. You want to talk about that in 908?
Well, of course, from the Sebring, the 908 then became unbreakable. It was fantastic. And Joe Seifert and I went on to win 5 races that year and effectively clinched the championship for Porsche for the first time ever. The team was really fantastic, and the work, but you know, the work being done at the same time as we were racing all these 908s in short tail and long tail form. They were building the new 917 25-0. And Porsche at that time wasn't such a huge company. Only about half the business was car manufacturing. The other half was doing work for experimental work for other companies. And so the work that went on was just phenomenal. And when the 917 came out, first of all, of course, it was built very quickly in a hurry, and it was a copy of the long tail 908. And it quickly got something of a difficult reputation without anybody actually having driven it. You know, we all thought we were all like this about it, all the 10 drivers. And so when I got a call in England in March of 1969, Redman said, well, come to Weissach and test the new 917. I thought, why do they want me? You know, when they've got 6 German heroes living near Stuttgart, ready to die for the fatherland. So I said, I'll call you back. I must make a call. I have some business going on. So I rang Joe Seifert in Switzerland, in Freiburg. And I said, Seppi, have you tested the new 917 yet? There's a long silence. He says, no, Brian. He said, we let the others find out what brakes it was. So big do's and little do's. By the end of '69, what the problem at the time was, I think the engineers knew what the problem was with the 917, but the Ferdinand Piëch wouldn't let the car lose 1 kilometre an hour on the Mulsanne straight at Le Mans. It had to be whatever they did, they must not lose a fraction of a second time. And so when we did the test at the Ostreichring in October of 1969, John Wyer was taking over the official running of the Porsche official team. And so I was there, and Kurt Ahrens was there. And all day on Friday, we drive around and we stop. We do 1 lap at a time. In, change this, lower it, raise it, change the wheel, change the camber, change the caster. Nothing made any difference. At the end of the day, John Horseman, the engineer for Wyer, said, you see all these flies on the nose bar, and there aren't any anywhere else. And he and 2 mechanics from Wyer borrowed the tools for his Porsche test. And so the Porsche truck was there, and they borrowed tools and they effectively cut the back off the car. And I was first out the next morning, and it looked like a pickup truck. But I stayed out 7 laps. When I came in, I said, now we have a race car. It was 4 seconds a lap faster. And a deputation arrived from Stuttgart, Porsche, higher ups. They never spoke to any of us except to the German mechanics. Never said a word, and he disappeared. At the end of the day, with a change of tyres and 1 or 2 other changes, it was 5 seconds a lap faster. And that's what led to what we know now, as the 917K, that could be short tail.
That's pretty impressive. So,
Jump around here a little bit.
Targa Florio.
9083.
983. Well, the 983 was built only for the Targa Florio and for the Nürburgring. Because Wyer was running our cars, he never saw them until we got to the Nürburgring or to the Targa Florio, because Porsche brought those cars, and then Wyer ran them during the race. So, at the Targa Florio, when I took over from Joe Seifert at the first pit stop, we were in 3rd or 4th place. But anyway, I catch up to the leader, who is a local hero, Nino Baccarella. He lives there. He's a school teacher. He knows every inch of the 44-mile course. with over 800 corners per lap. So I catch him up and I try to pass him 3 times, and every time he's going to push me off the road. There was no way. And so I sat behind him for 100 miles waiting for the pit stop because I knew we'd be faster in the pits. And we won. So it's not very glorious, but hey, a win's a win.
That's incredible. So let's jump ahead to maybe a little bit later in the 70s. In 1978, you drove 935 at Sebring. You want to talk about that?
Well, in the sort of mid-70s, I was occasionally driving 935s for Dick Barber, and I'd won 3 American Formula 5000 championships, open-wheel, single-seater. And you've all heard of Mario Andretti? Yeah. Well, he was second for 2 years. But Dick said to me, Brian, never touch the boost. Oh, and it's set at 1.2 bar. So I couldn't understand why I was always qualifying 7th or 8th, you know, and running okay in the race. But so I said to this young German there, Rolf Stommeln, who was an expert in 935, and at Road America, one morning I said, Rolf, can I ask you a question? Ah, Brian? I said, do you ever touch the boost? And he put his hands on his hips, and he's standing in front of me, he said, Brian, he said, do I ever touch the boost? I turn it as far as it will go. I did a bit better after that.
Can I jump in here? I had 2 3-digit numbers. One was 700 horsepower and the other one was 935. I wanted to use the opportunity here to inform the bigger family that the Ingram family will be one of the 77 customers that will get an allocation for the 935. And you know, since the collection is the collection for the people, it's probably not only good news for the family, but maybe also good news for the bigger family.
Brian,
I'm speechless. Ginny, you gotta write a check.
Brian, the cars you were racing back then had 700 horsepower. It's taken a while for the production cars to catch up to that. They're 700 horsepower. What do you see it in the Porsche DNA that they're competitive all these decades later? They're so dominant at Le Mans, Daytona, the most successful market. What do you see in the 911?
Well, I mean, the whole mark Porsche is incredible. There's no other mark, including Ferrari, that never wavered in their support at a high level of motor racing. They're the only ones that have ever done it over all the years, even through obviously some very difficult times for the company as well. And yet they've always stood there and always improved and had a fantastic, amazing record. And, of course, you see when I first went to ISOC in December 1969, there was a few shacks there and a few engineers. There was nothing. And when I went, I think 10 years ago, I did a road test at ISOC of the Porsche RS, the IMSA winning car, you know, the Penske round for Porsche. And I hadn't been there since '69. I could not believe it. The buildings, you know, the massive building for the transporters. The transporters come in and have a car wash in this huge building. It's about the height of this ceiling. And so the whole thing is it is unbelievable, the whole thing. And well done indeed, you know. Here we are today with Porsche, the foremost mark in the sporting world and available to relatively known customers. So they can do a fantastic job.
Great. I'm going to open up the floor to some questions because we're going to do some book signing after the event. With that, Wolfgang, would you have a question to start off here, or you got something good for the room or not? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Don't ever have Brian tow you in a Sportomatic at the Nürburgring. It's a really bad thing. Tell him the story. Yeah, we were at the Nürburgring and Brian came up to me and said, "Hey, Wolfie, my Porsche won't start." I said, "Well, I don't know too much about it. Maybe I can give you a tow." So we towing a Sportomatic was not a good thing. I think we blew it up. Did they ever give you a car again after that?
Yeah, I did, but I don't remember what actually happened. Perhaps you do.
I didn't blow it up, you did.
I attended the Mid-Ohio Can-Am race, and the announcer said that when the flag dropped, that Mark Donahue pulled the front wheels off the ground on that 9/17/30. Is that really possible, or was he just trying to hyperbole?
No, it's not really possible. I mean, what it did, because I raced it the following year at 74 at Mid-Ohio, it was in about the April of that year, I called for Roger Penske. Ryan, how would you like to drive the 9/17/30 at Mid-Ohio in Dubai? I said, it can't run. He said, it can run. Come and see me. So I went up to Reddy, sat opposite the desk, and he said, Brian, I said, how can it run? He said, Brian, don't worry about it. It can run, because effectively the 9/17/10 and 30 have been banned by the SCCA. So he said, how much do you want? So I said, $5,000. He said, Brian, you're the most reasonable racing driver I ever met. So off we go to Ohio. Now Mark Donahue at that time was retired, you know, and he was the team manager, and he was very unhappy, I can tell you. Anyway, I won the first race in the rain against the Shadows. The Shadows were new cars, George Follmer and Jackie Oliver. But in the race, were you talking about lifting the wheels? No, I don't think so. But coming onto the Mid-Ohio straight, if you gave it a lot of power, because first gear would take it to 90 miles an hour, but as you left the corner, it would hop, it would go, like this. And what it was the tyres winding up like this on themselves and then letting go. So there's black marks in a hop like this. Anyway, off the race goes, and I'm in the lead. But the 9/17/30, like the 10, had tremendous throttle. And so when you turn into a corner, you have to judge when the power would come. And so in practice, the car had been surprisingly good. Let's say turn 1 at Mid-Ohio, you come in, you turn, and it would start to oversteer gently like this. And so you judge when to open the throttle, you're still in the corner. And so you could go like this, and then nerve, and off you go. Well, after the rain in the first heat race, and finally it was still wet and looked like it was still raining, and I said to Mark, what happens to the handling if we groove the slick tyres and the track dries out? What happens to the handling? He said, nothing. Wrong. When the track dried out, anyway, I nearly lost it round the back of the track. You know, after you go down the straight, go over the corkscrew there, right, and then a little wiggle, and then that right hander with a blind rise. I put the power on too soon, and I go sideways, like this, and both Follmer and Oliver passed me. Then I'm behind them, so I'm following them, and I saw Follmer hit Oliver right in the door. He tried to pass it in an impossible place, and he put himself out of the race. But my handling had just gone to hell, and I finished second. I should have won.